Welcome to this new add-on spotlight. In this add-on spotlight we're gonna look at the native 767-300ER/F, which is a Boeing aircraft which is still under development, right? It's being created by Snow Palm Studios. And this is version 0.2, right? So this is not the initial version, but it's actually already a new version, which contains, in this case, a fully custom virtual cockpit. So I'm really curious about it. So you can download it from flightsim.2. Once you download it, you can extract it into your community folder, and then you will have multiple aircrafts. So you've got the ER, you've got the ER winglets, the 767-300 Foxtrot, and then you've got the 767-300 Foxtrot winglets. So you've got 4 additional ones. All of them have, I think, 1 or 2 liveries. 2. So let's see how this one flies, right? So let's use the FedEx one, because the the cargo aircrafts do have the FedEx livery, and the other ones have the Air Canada livery. So we're gonna depart from an airport here. Let's see where we're gonna fly from. Let's select, in this case, Portland International. So let's set it as departure. We're gonna go straight from the runway, right? I'm not gonna go to the steps, how to start the engines, etc., because it will come up in a future video. So let's see how it looks from the exterior, but also from the interior, right? Because it looks like that there are many changes being performed by the developer. And while loading, right, it's, I would say, really nice that there are so many developers releasing so much cool stuff. So always give them the feedback that they deserve, right? If it's good, give them feedback. If there's room for improvement, give them positive feedback, right? Give them feedback which they can use to improve the aircraft. So this is the aircraft. So you can see that the aircraft is ready for takeoff. If we look at the details, right, you can see that there's, say, there's one, let's say, single color, right? You don't see the real, I would say, differences compared to, for example, the default aircraft in Flight Simulator or the other community add-ons. So there's some work here to, I would say, add some more detail on the wings and also on the rest of the livery on the outside. So let's go inside and let's have a look at the cockpit, right? So it has been completely revamped. There's some nice displays now included, and there's of course a lot of instruments here. So let's start on this end. So here we've got the panel options. Some of the buttons are not working. Some of it is clearly mentioned, okay, hey, it's inoperative, right? Which means that you can't use it. Some of them, it doesn't show that they're not working. But again, right, keep in mind it's work in progress. It looks like that the autopilot buttons are working, right? So we're gonna try that. And also the autopilot options here, like the flight director, are working. The minimum barrel settings also working, and also the options to zoom in and out on the maps look like to work. The brightness of the displays, which can be set by this. No, sorry, I'm incorrect. Is the instrument source selector is not working, as well as the other one. Brake pressure, etc. works. There are some buttons here which are being modeled and will get get some functionality in the future. And of course here we've got the central information about the engine, but also here about the speed and the altitude we're flying. In here you will find the add-on, right? So if you installed the Salty 747, you're lucky because it integrates with the Salty 747. So that's cool. So let's switch the brakes to max, right? Because we're taking off. Let's make sure that we set the outboard flaps. We can't do much with it. The same thing is applicable for the buttons here. These buttons, like the MCDU part, that works perfectly. Here you can also see several options, right? The FMC, here an additional display, right? You've got 3 displays which you can use to manage the MCDU. Then we've got the other options here for setting some other options like the frequency for the radio. Those are not working yet. But I do expect it to be working in a future release. Weather radar, etc. not working yet. Parking brake of course is, as well as the speed brake containing the throttle. So let's see if we can get it airborne. So we're going to increase the engine power. So you can see that there's some work to do, right? Because this looks nice, but looks like that there's some details missing. But hey, let's first see if we can fly with it, right? So the altimeters are working, right? You can see that it has is increasing. You can see that the speed drops. The map isn't working yet, so that's probably something which they're working on. So let me push back a bit because I'm a little bit too enthusiastic about the climb rate, which also is, I would say, it's hard to see, right? Because it's you can't, well, you can see it here, right, with the with this nice pink line. So we're climbing, that's good.
Horizon Air 2029er exit runway when able.
You can see that the camera positions are working, right? While we're climbing, you can see also that there are a lot of buttons here on the top of the aircraft. So a lot of buttons which are partially working. I would say the most important ones, like starting the MCDU is working, but for example starting the engine is not. And of course the lightning, which is working, which are, I would say, critical ones. So let me stop making you think, hey, what am I doing? So here we've got the altitude, right? We switched on the flight director already, so you can switch on the autopilot, the autopilot and the auto throttle. So this is for the auto throttle, right? So you can set the auto throttle, then you can increase the speed, and we can also switch on the autopilots. So the autopilot is set to 10,000 feet. So let's see if it stops climbing at that speed. Also, let's set the IS speed to a little bit higher, because it's switched to off, as you can see. That one works, as looks like. You can hear it decreasing.
American 2655, turn next taxiway.
Altitude, it's set, but due to the false speed we were going, I would say, above the altitude. So let me also switch the altimeter and see how it reacts to that. So that works, right? So it looks like it's that piece is working correctly. The thrust mode is not set, so we can set either the speed or the thrust mode. So currently the thrust mode is set to 200, so you can see that it decreases correctly to 200. Flight level, change mode, vertical mode and LDF mode, right? We can't use it because we're not, I would say, in, or we didn't program a flight. What we can do, however, is change, for example, the direction, right? So we switched the heading to 204, and you can do it by moving the button here. And then let's switch it on and see what happens. It's hard to see. It's also nasty weather, right? So let's move the button a bit. You can see that it looks like it doesn't react on this. Oh, here it goes. So probably pressing the button was resolving the issue. While we're at this, let's see if it also reacts to flight level changes. 20,000 feet. Flight level change. You can see that the mode changes here. because we need to be a little bit higher because we're flying into the clouds and that's not a lot of fun. So it looks like it's working, this piece. It's really cool. We can see that this part, right, it still works, right? We can see that the flaps are set. So let's also decrease the flaps to neutral. And clearly indicates on which, let's say, which configuration flaps are.
Alaska 164 exit runway when able.
Now it's green. So we can also increase the speed. Let's see if it also reacts to that. Although I don't think it will react to that because it's in the flight change or flight level change mode. But it continues to increase, right? That's good. We're still climbing. Everybody's happy. So it looks like that there is still some work to do, but again, that's expected of a version 0.2. The good thing is, of course, that there's a lot of things which are working. So let's see if it also the FMC works. Right, HC log on status is available. Looks like that there's some weird things here which need to be fixed, but also the buttons moving back is changing. It looks like that there are 2 buttons missing here, and 1 is missing here because here you have them.
Alaska 164 exit
It
runway
looks
when
like
able.
that only the left console has been modeled and not the right one. So let's see if we can go to the previous page. This works. Then use the menu option. This works, so that's good. So can we find the route? Yes, those are also working, right? So you need to use the other buttons to navigate to the different options, right? The progress report, right? The hold, which is also available. The departure and arrival, of course. The fixes to change the radio frequencies. And then we've got the menu option, which is this one, which is shown by default, right? So be aware, you might want to move to init ref initially. Unfortunately, you can't press all the buttons, which makes it impossible to, for example, set the identifier. So that's something which will be fixed. Other than that, the autopilot is working good, right? But that's only based on the speedometer mode or speed meter and the heading mode and the altitude mode, right? I didn't check the VNAV mode and the LNAV mode, but it's flying, right? So let's go to the outside. There's also some work which needs to be finished in that case. But hey, here we're flying with our FedEx aircraft. So pretty impressed by what has already been built by this developer. You can see that there's on some pieces there are details like here and here. It flies nicely, right? You can use it, and that sometimes is always a question if you download things from the community. But this is definitely one which works, and which is, I would say, in a state where you can say, okay, hey, it's useful, we can still use it, but there's still some work to do. So here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you've got questions or comments, then feel free to post them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.